My my bunion correction is very, very unique. Most people leave their bunions until they get really bad because they've heard the horrible stories of people who've had their bunions corrected in the hospital. I use a completely different approach. Number one, I don't do any of my corrections in the hospital. I do it here in my clinic. I have a surgical suite, a fully equipped surgical suite that's very high tech. I don't use any general anesthesia, which is much riskier than any procedure you could possibly have. I use local freezing, much like a dentist would. And I don't even freeze the whole foot because I find that overkill. So I'm just working in a small area and I numb that area. One of the big myths is that I break or I shave bone. Well, I shave in the morning before my shower. I never shave at the office. And breaking is very unpredictable. So in the hospital, you'll have something called a tourniquet put around your ankle, which stops the blood flow during the procedure so the doctor can fillet your foot and see exactly what he's doing, he or she. That causes a lot more pain, a lot of risk. I, per se, don't make incisions. I make two or three small pokes about the size of the end of a pen, the nib of the pen where the ink comes out. I don't use any stitches. I don't insert any metals like pins, wires, screws, plates. None of that. I don't use casts and crutches. I don't use those big plastic, what I call moon boots. Now, I was trained to do the hospital, what I call the traditional approach, but I don't do that. I have this unique procedure that I do very quickly here in the office. The patient's foot is taped up. They're given a special shoe, not a boot, but a shoe that secures the foot so that it heals properly. You're not going to be off your foot for 3 or 4 months sitting on the couch watching Oprah. We lead busy lives, we may have small children, etc. We need to be active. You can go back to work usually within 48 hours. You can do certain activities at the gym. You can even drive. You can go up and down stairs. You can walk your dog. There are very little limitations. As long as you're not pouncing on it, I really have no limitations. As far as pain is concerned, there's an opioid and narcotic problem out in our world, so I don't prescribe that. If, and that's a big if you have pain for a few days, I recommend you take what you would normally take for a headache, perhaps Tylenol, Advil, or Aleve. And pain does subside. It is not horrible, and each week gets better. And you're just not laid up. So that's the beauty of this unique procedure. Typically, there's a picture we must look at. Most people that come in say that their mother and their grandmother have a bunion, so it's hereditary, it's genetic. Well, that's a bit of a myth. There's a picture involved. What causes a bunion to occur and the bunion itself. Most bunions occur because of poor mechanics in the feet. The way you are born to stand and walk, you put too much weight, stress, and force on the big toe joint. And what happens over the years, it doesn't happen overnight, is the large bone in the foot will drift outward towards the middle of the body. And because it's a joint that's connected to the big toe, what I call the bully toe, will move towards the smaller toes. And when we look at the x-ray, which I do when people come in for consultations, I go over the x-rays with them. and they see an angle rather than bones that are straight. It's not a bump that grows on the side of the foot. So, my procedure will address the symptom, which is the bunion, the bones that have drifted out of alignment. In order to prevent the bunion from ever returning, and this happens a lot in the hospital, I do a lot of hospital revisions, is we have to address what put that bunion in into the misalignment in the first place. And that's something we call overpronation, which is an imbalance in the way we stand and walk. So, quite likely, I would like to see my patients after the procedure is performed to wear prescription orthotics so that they're not putting all that weight, force, and stress on the big toe joint, and it should never come back. I can honestly say I've been doing it for many, many years. I've done many thousands of them, and I've yet to repeat one. I don't know if I'm skillful or perhaps just lucky, but I'm very pleased with that result. That's a very difficult question for me to answer simply because to give you a more accurate fee, I need to examine the foot fully, go over the x rays, because quite often when someone comes in with a bunion, we do take x rays. There could be a hammer toe involved, there could be other things involved. So I hate to even give a ballpark figure, but once you come in for a consultation, and I like an informed patient, I'll go over everything you need to know, answer all your questions. I spend a lot of time with you. I don't look down writing notes or looking at a laptop making notes. I pay attention to what you're telling me, and I describe the procedure in detail, the postoperative course in detail, and then one of my assistants comes in and reviews the fees with you. So we find that this works the best for us. Right now, we're open for emergency care, and we are coming in for surgical redresses where I change the bandage on a weekly basis. But I feel that very soon we will be fully open where we can provide comprehensive consultations for bunions, ingrown toenails, heel pain, whatever bothers you. My biggest concern, and I wish I could address it currently, is we have a lot of frontline workers in not only in hospitals but in a lot of injuries that are putting in extra time on their feet, elongated shifts. It's not unheard of 12, 14-hour shifts, and their feet have to be killing them. Not only their feet, their knees, their back, and I really honestly wish I could look after those individuals because they've been working tirelessly to try and save lives, and I'd like to give back. Quite often, orthotics can help with bunions if caught early enough. It's probably the most proactive thing you can do to prevent or slow the progression of bunions. The reason being is orthotics to feet are basically what eyeglasses are to eyes. They bring things into better focus. So if you were born with an imbalance in your feet and you start to wear orthotics and they do balance your feet, you're not putting all that extra force and weight on parts of your feet, knees, low back that you shouldn't be putting force on. And most people feel 100% better. They can continue with their activities pain free. They can walk, they can run, whatever they do as far as activities are concerned, orthotics work incredibly well. But I'm not talking about over-the-counter orthotics that you would buy at the pharmacy. Orthotics are prescription made from scratch from an orthotic lab, and there is a bit of a breaking in period, but they do work wonderfully. And that's a great question. My procedure is very unique. It's very quick. It takes between 8 to 20 minutes to correct. Hospital based surgery can take anywhere from 3 to 3.5 hours. Under general anesthesia, tourniquet around the ankle to stop the bleeding, 20 to 30 stitches or staples. Metal is placed in with screws, pins, wires, staples, plates. Cast and crutches, you're immobile 3-4 months. Terrible, terrible, awful pain that you'll need narcotics to control. Most people I see, they've had one done in the hospital, they'd never have it done again. So it's a little bit difficult to convince them that the real minimally invasive surgical approach is a far better approach because they're not off their feet for that many months. We lead busy lives. There's far less risk with the real minimally invasive surgery. Like I said before, I do a lot of hospital revisions. My best analogy for that is I don't mind if women wear heels. Anything in moderation is okay. So if you're going to an event, you're going to a wedding, you want to wear heels, you're going to have pain because that's the price you pay for vanity. But for the women who wear it on a day-to-day basis, my analogy is this. The way high heels are structured, they're very narrow in the front. They put a lot of the body's weight on the ball of the foot or near the toes. So if you can consider your toes as 5 cars, you're squeezing 5 cars into 3 parking spaces. So damage has to occur. Post-war, after the Second World War, women were entering into the workforce, mostly in retail, and they were wearing a lot of high heels during that time. During the last number of years, I've been seeing those women and seeing the ravages that the high heels cause on feet, and every single woman tell me, if I would have known these heels would have done this much damage to my feet, I would never, ever have worn them. But when I look outside now and I see a lot of women wearing heels because they're not going to give up their heels, I call it job security. I'll always have a job. Well, hopefully I've given you some good information about foot care, and I have lots more to offer. If you felt this was valuable, we'd love to hear your feedback, and we can continue with this at another time. I really want to thank everybody for joining us, taking time out of your schedules, and all I ask is please keep safe, keep healthy. When you go out, wear a mask and social distance, and I look forward to talking to you once again.